Yeah, hi everyone. As you've probably guessed already, this is not a gold prospecting video. I thought I'd just put up a little movie of me fitting a diesel heater, an eBay cheap Chinese diesel heater to my bus. So I'm in preparation mode at the moment for my gold hunting season this year. I thought I'd spoil myself and I got myself a little diesel heater because where we go prospecting in winter can easily get down to 0 degrees Celsius. And if you're out in the bush, you haven't got 240 volts, say running a generator the whole time, it might be nice to just press a button and just use 300 mils of diesel and run a nice heater, keep the bus toasty and warm. A lot of them are fitting them in the vans. This one's going to be fitting in a Toyota Coaster bus. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm not going to show every step, but I'm just going to sort of show some of the considerations that you might want to take. Okay, so here's my bus here. It's had a very big off season because I've just fitted a new engine in it. It's not quite finished yet, so the bus is an absolute mess. I've still got the exhaust system off underneath. I've got the turbo off. Here's the engine. I've got the front seats out. So that's all a work in progress. That's all got to be finished within the next 30 days. I'm just waiting on a part, so I thought while I'm waiting I'll take the opportunity to have a little fit of this heater. Now my idea is this is a seat here that folds down, and I've got a nice little cavity there, and that's where I'm going to put my heater. Okay, yeah, back again. Yeah, so a quick look at the heater here. It's just your standard cheap Chinese, it's a 5 kilowatt diesel heater. They're all pretty similar. Some have a few extra attachments. This one was really lean on pipes. It's only got one big pipe. It does have the T, so you can actually have 2 of these outlets. So there's one, there's the second. You've got plenty of fuel line there. Looks like there's about 7 or 8 meters of fuel line. Plenty of clips, screws, there's a filter, clamps and things. That's all good. Tiny little bit of exhaust pipe. One tiny exhaust. There's the unit itself. They're quite small, you can pick it up with one hand easily. There it is. Now you have an inlet side, which is this one. I'll just unscrew that. And there's a little fan in there. You can see that'll spin around. So that's where it draws the room temperature air into the unit. Obviously inside there's a little diesel combustion chamber. So cool air will come in here. Diesel will run into this tube here. It'll be heated up. Exhaust will be admitted out there. And then through here is where your air will run. So your sort of cool or cold air will come in from the cabin. It'll run past this engine essentially, which is obviously running hot, and it's like a heat exchange system. And the hot air will run past these fins here, and this is where your hot air will come out. Okay, many people are daunted when they're presented with a massive wiring loom like this. It's been well documented that the instructions that come with these things are horrendous, so I probably wouldn't rely on them at all. It's quite laughable when you read through them and the descriptions and translations. But anyway, when you get something like this, it's always good to just break it down into its little sections and have a quick look, and essentially it's really, really, really easy. So all you have here, you have a one-way plug coming out of the main unit. You search your wiring harness, and there's the one-way plug. So that's just going to go straight in there. So there's the first one done. Then we've got a black lead. Obviously that's an earth, so that's just going to be screwed into an area that's going to give you provide a good earth on the car or the caravan, just a steel member, something like that. Okay, your red one is going to be your power, so that's going to go straight to your battery or to a 12 volt live wire. Okay, then we've simply got one more here. Now this one if we have a look at the head unit, here's our head unit. It's got the same socket, only the male version. There's the female version, so that's just going to go straight in there. And we've got one more left, and this one here goes straight to the fuel pump solenoid. So there's a tiny little fuel pump solenoid, and there's that. And that's it. That's the wiring done, essentially. The only other thing that would need to be hooked up, obviously, is your fuel, your air in, and this is your exhaust. And then we should be rocking and rolling. Okay, get back to you soon. Yeah, okay, so positioning of the device, it basically comes down to two main factors. The first one really is where it can fit. Okay, you might want to put it somewhere, but the factors of the layout of the van or the bus or the camp trailer may not let you put it where you want it. Okay, so one is the determining factors of what's underneath the chassis or the vehicle, and the second one is personal preference. So number one is, can it fit there? Will it fit there, and can it fit there, both on top and underneath? And then secondly is where you'd like it. So you got to tick both those boxes. So, as I said before, I'm going to put mine in under this seat. Now ideally I wanted my unit to fit along this side, because I could have just put a nice little outlet here and even a second outlet here, and everything was going to be rosy. But when I looked underneath, there's actually the main diesel tank for the bus is under there. Now the main diesel tank finishes just about there, so pretty much that left me that space to put my heater, which is going to work fine. I can still run the flexible heater pipe around this corner and still have my vent coming out one of these walls. That's just going to send the heat through the bus. Sorry, the bus is very dirty at the moment, but that's just going to send the heat through here, fill the cabin. Everything should be sweet. The other one is obviously where you want to fit your head unit or your remote. Now I have an area in the bus here where I already have a little head unit. There it is there. Now I do have a space just up in here, and I'm thinking I will probably place my head unit up in there next to that, so that'll just keep it all in the one spot. Trouble with that is it's in a little recess, and these things do come with a remote, and I doubt the remote will work. Say if I'm lying on up that end of the bus on the bed or something, I doubt the remote's going to go in and around that corner, so that could be a little issue. But you know, we're talking a space of a couple of square meters, so it's not like you have to move too far to adjust your heater. Now one thing with this one is the fuel feed. Obviously most people will be putting these things in a caravan. Now for that situation, these products come with their own 10 or 15 litre fuel reservoir. Now being a bus, which is already a diesel, I can do away with all that, and what they actually do send you is a fuel tank pickup. So potentially I could drill 4 holes in the top of my fuel tank, 3 for the screws and 1 for the main tube to drop down into, and then I would just attach my fuel line to the top of that and run that to the diesel heater. But I obviously already have one of these in my fuel tank, which feeds my engine. So all I'm going to do is cut into my fuel line. I'm going to run a T-piece. So this piece here, this will be where my original fuel line continues to run, but I've cut a T-piece in. I will then run a little bit of fuel line off that. Now the only trouble is with these diesel heaters, their fuel line's a lot thinner. So what I've just gone down to the local shop and bought a reducer. So I'll have my reducer, and you can see how small this line is, and that will then just run off onto the fuel line supplied and run into the diesel heater. So that way, whenever I've got fuel on my bus, I'll be able to run my diesel heater. Okay, here's a quick view underneath. So here's my main fuel tank Now where I originally wanted my heater in that position under the seat that I showed you, it was actually up in above here. So that would mean there would be an exhaust trying to come out of the floor, and it was going to run straight into this diesel tank. So that's no good. But just past the diesel tank, I've got a nice little vacant area here. So somewhere where there's already a bit of an original old cutout for something. So my unit will be hanging out through here somewhere. So I'll have the cool air inlet coming down. I'll have the fuel provider running in, and I'll have my exhaust coming out here and away from this diesel tank, obviously. I'll have my exhaust maybe coming out just the side of the bus just here. So I think that's going to be a good compromise. It's still under the seat where I want it. It's away from the diesel tank, and it's just taking up a nice little spot there that's free. Okay, so there's the first holes cut. I just used, it's, I don't know, about 52 mil hole saw. I didn't have a big enough hole saw to do the whole thing in one go. Now I've made those a lot bigger than needed. That way it just gives some clearance around the exhaust pipe. So I've just done 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just trim these little bits straight off with an angle grinder or something, just to give a bit more room. That's it so far. I also trimmed the lino back, so this plate will just fit nicely there. I'll screw that down. Okay, one movie I watched, the guy said he bolted the base plate down to the vehicle first, and then he bolted the heater to the base plate. He said he had all sorts of troubles getting the tight fit on these, because he put the whole thing in like a shroud, and then he said he struggled. So he recommended putting the base plate on first, bolting it down here, and then screwing it to the car. So that's what I'll do. I did also see a few questions online. People were asking about this. They thought it was just plastic and whether to leave it on or not because of the heat. But I'm pretty sure it's actually silicone. It's heat resistant. The amount of heat that this thing's going to generate, similar to your material that they have, the silicone oven mitts and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to leave that in place. Okay, these are the 4 nuts and bolts that hold the main unit to the base plate. I noticed they don't have any lock washers on them. Now if I just put that nut onto that bolt there, the roads that we go on, that's going to rattle loose in 10 minutes. So I'm just making sure I just got some lock washers, put a lock washer on. Okay, on further inspection and reflection, I said I was going to put the fuel hose on, pre-tighten it and stick it on. I thought I might as well do the exhaust pipe and the inlet pipe as well. So there they all are, all 3, sitting in place and tightened up. Now I literally just have to turn it over and stick it in this hole. Obviously this all depends on access. I got really good access here. I saw another guy that did a great video putting it in his caravan. He stuck it into a little cupboard under his fridge. Well, he wouldn't be able to do this because it was fairly tight where he put his. Anyway, probably a fraction heavy to do this one-handed, but I'll see. Here we go. And there it is. I'll just pull it back out a bit and show you. Yep, there they all are. Just sitting straight in. Now I have left my clearance fairly tight at the back. I'm a fraction concerned about that. That's only where the air comes in, and there's still a bit of room in there for it to suck the air. That's only sucking in room temperature air. The hot air is going to come out here. Now one concern that I do have is when this seat is down, that's pretty much a closed chamber in there, and it's not going to be able to get the air that it needs, to pull the air that it needs to push the hot air out. So now this diesel heater, most of them do, they come with a T-piece and two heads. So I'm only going to use one head. I'm going to run the pipe around here and have one head coming out here. So that's going to be my exhaust where my hot air is coming out to warm the cabin. I'm going to use the other head. I'm going to cut a hole back in up there. Excuse all this junk, but I'm going to put the other head up in here. That's actually going to let airflow into that chamber. Now that doesn't need to be directed all the way to the back of that, it'll just suck that air through. So it'll pull in air through there, push hot air out through here, and that'll just keep recirculating through the whole cabin till the place gets nice and toasty warm. Okay, there's the unit all bolted in, nice and neat. There's 2 screws into the floor there, 2 screws into the floor there. And here's the underside. So as you can see, there's plenty of clearance away from that timber for the exhaust. You've got your fuel inlet, and then you've got your cold air inlet just here that I'm hanging on to. So it's just a matter of routing those now. Obviously send one way and one the other. With the exhaust, you want to try and get it at least out to the edge of your vehicle rather than just underneath, because then the exhaust gases will be tending to come back up from underneath, whereas if it's out at the edge, you're at least promoting it to push it away. So I'll be looking to get mine out this way somewhere. Okay, well, I've just hooked up the exhaust pipe side of things. I was in luck. I had a really nice solid bracket just here, which the big heavy mud flap hangs off. So there's the exhaust coming down. I've just got a nice bend, and there's the little muffler. And if you can see, it's just protruding out the side of the bus. So that's really solid. That's bolted all the way through. That's that fresh looking bolt there. Again, I put lock washers on all those bolts. They didn't come with lock washers, so you might have to add them. That's the exhaust done. Regarding the air intake, this hose here can literally go anywhere as long as you keep it away from the exhaust. So I'll probably just stick it up in there. It does have a little filter on top that needs to be screwed onto it, and then I'll just zip tie it probably up in there against those pipes. That'll be that done. Then I just got to hook up the fuel inlet, and then it's onto the wiring. So I happened to find a handy join in my fuel line just here. So all I've done is take away the straight joiner where it was joined, put in the brass T-piece. I'll just connect this side back up to the original fuel tank as per normal, and this will be my feeder line for my new diesel heater. Okay, so here's my original fuel line here, coming through here. Here's my T-piece now, and this is the reducer, so that's bringing it from the bus fuel line size right down to the diesel heater fuel line size. So this will now just run to the diesel heater, but in between we have to put the inline filter, and most importantly the fuel pump. And that's what will push the fuel, suck the fuel up from the diesel tank and push it up towards the heater. Okay, so one little tip just to make things easier again: any of your components like your fuel pump and your fuel filter, they supply you about half a metre of this flexible fuel hose. So you need to cut that into, you're going to need 6, 7, 8 pieces of it. So each side of the main component you need to put a little piece of this with a clamp like that. Once you have that, then your flexible fuel line will poke in there, and also then with another clamp. So you can sort of pre-cut all them and fix them on. So you see that one's done. I've still got to do this one. Right, everyone, that's pretty much the plumbing done underneath the heater. I'll just try and show you a few things. It's a bit dark under here. Looking through my fuel cap. So there's the exhaust. It's pretty much coming straight down, got a little bend in it, and it comes straight out. It's bolted up to that bracket on the muffler. I did just readjust it and actually tilted it down a little so it's not going to catch and hold any water. I'll just show you from here, you can get an idea. There's the angle, so it's definitely angling down. The fuel pump, it's been bolted over in there to the chassis. You'll notice it's not sitting flat. They recommend around the 30-degree angle. I don't know why, but that's just, they seem to emphasize that a fair bit too. So make sure you try and get that angle on that thing. That was probably the hardest part of the whole thing, was actually sticking that see-through fuel pipe, the hard plastic fuel pipe, into the rubber flexible fuel pipe. It's really hard to get it in more than about 15-20 mil. So you might have to heat your flexible pipe up in a bit of hot water, or a heat gun or a hairdryer, something like that might help. I'll just climb underneath. So there it is there, there's your exhaust, there's your cool air in, there's your fuel line. Now my cool air in just comes down. I zip tied the fuel line to it for part of its travels. And there it is there. Yeah, back again, just a quick update. So the unit's fully in now. I got my vent in, so there it is there. Just runs around the corner. And I cut a hole through there. And here's my vent. They are directional, but you're not really going to bother too much with that, so there's that. I haven't cut my other vent hole back in yet to let the cabinet breathe. What I did just do now is I drilled a hole through the floor. I cut the electric socket that runs to the fuel pump, so I only had to drill a small hole through the floor. I saw that little trick on one of the other videos and it was a good idea, so yep, just a small hole through the floor, wires come up, and now I can solder them back together. And that just solves having to drill a really big hole through the floor and then having to put a heap of sealer around it. So that's done. So I just got to basically, as I said before, just connect the red power up somewhere and the black earth. And then last but not least, I just got to run this last cable, which is to my head unit. That's going to go back up in here, in behind that wall carpet, up in behind that cupboard, and up to that area above the fridge. That'll probably be tomorrow's job. Probably been working on about 3.5 hours today, probably close to 4 hours really. So I've been taking my time, plus it takes a while to make the videos as well. Okay, back again, quick update. Well, I pretty much sorted my wiring out mostly. So here's the unit. Haven't cleaned up anywhere here. So what I did actually also do is I added an isolation switch. Reason being, the head unit is powered all the time, so that means it would be illuminated 24/7. So I'll just turn it on here. So there it is there. So if I didn't have that isolation switch, that's going to stay like that 24/7. I just don't want wasteful lights being on, especially when I'm out in the bush for weeks and weeks at a time. So whenever I want to use the diesel heater, I'll just flick that switch on, and then when I don't want to use it, I'll just get rid of it. So there it is. So that's the head unit sitting nicely where I said I'd put it. I did have a 12-volt socket just next to it, so all I did is I run the power in behind that carpet backing there and up into that. For the fuel pump, I just drilled that little hole there. There it is. I'll put some silicone in that after. That goes down through the floor and straight into the fuel pump. that's pretty much it. There's my fuse. I'll just close that up. The only thing I haven't done yet is I haven't put my extra vent in to let this cupboard breathe. But just for my trial startup, I will I'll just leave this seat up so it'll get plenty of air. Okay, so to prime this thing, we press and hold the OK, press the down, and you get the off flashing. And now you hit the up, and that's on now. Straight away the fuel pump started ticking. There's the little fuel pump signal. I'm going to run around here and see if we can see the pipe getting full. Okay, so you can see I got fuel to my fuel filter now. And if you see that yellow, that line there, that's actually got a yellow tinge, so that's pretty much all full of diesel. See a few bubbles getting pushed along just there. Okay, and there's the fuel just hitting the fuel pump now. That's looking really good. Okay, this is the first proper startup with full fuel lines. Quite smoky. There's, up in there's a tiny little bit of smoke just there. Fuel pump's ticking away. Okay, so I'll just test with the thermometer now. We've got about 50 degrees, 45, 50 at the vent. That's a really strong gust of air. So it's pretty much, you could equate that to a hairdryer on full, flat out, blowing into the cabin space. So that's really cool. Okay, I just thought I'd show you a proper full fire up of this thing. So here's my bus. That's the seat that I've installed it under. There's my air vent outlet. There's my air vent to let the air into the cab, into the motor space. There's the unit. Now, as you saw in the previous movie, I've put the little isolation switch, so I'll just turn that on. There's the head unit. Now, it's already been primed once, so it should be ready to go. So I literally just hit on. Straight away on the graphic, we've got the fan turning. The little red is the glow plug. That's the glow plug started. And shortly here you'll see the fuel pump image just appear just here. And it'll start ticking. I can already hear the fan started on the unit. I'll show you that quickly. I'm already getting cool air coming out of here. Okay, fuel pump icon has appeared just here. You can actually hear ignition in there now. And you can see the little inline fuel filter pulsing. Exhaust winding up now. There's the fuel pump. Okay, so that's saying it's been going 4 minutes now, and we'll just check a few temperatures. That's already up to nearly 60 degrees. Tubing's nearly up to 70 there. There's the 70 there. Really strong, nice airflow coming through.